I mean, he is clinically insane. And I don't mean this in a throwaway manner. I mean, the man is clinically insane. He has a mental illness, this narcissistic personality disorder that he is suffering from. And it's real. I mean, you don't even have to have him sit down in front of you on a couch and talk to you. You see it manifest itself. Any man that illegally renames the JFK Center, the Trump and Kennedy Center, which is illegal. He's not allowed to do that, but he did it anyways. Any man that feels that he has to build a monument to himself, where he blackmails a senator from the state of New York so he can get his name on, buildings and tunnels. This is a narcissist, and it's a psychosis, literally a psychosis, where this man is incapable of allowing things to play out in a manner that doesn't put him front and center. He has to be the center of everybody's attention. So right off the bat, you're asking me to assess the words of an insane man. You can't assess the words of an insane man. He is mentally ill. And we have people surrounding him who sustain this mental illness. Many of them have bought into this cult of personality to the extent in which they are likewise mentally ill. You have to be insane to support an insane man. And this is where we're at right now. What is he saying? I mean, let's just parse it out for all the mouth-breathing MAGA morons out there who think that what this man's saying means something. Are you telling me, Mr. Commander-in-Chief, that you didn't try to blow the hell out of them the first time? The first time you went and bombed them for nearly 40 days, that you held back. You didn't bring it all. No, you did bring it all, and you failed. Let's just remind everybody it was the United States seeking the off-ramp, not the Iranians. It was the United States that said, yes, we need a ceasefire. We want a ceasefire because we were out of ammunition. We were out of precision strike munitions. We were recognizing that we were bombing anything, that the Iranians were getting stronger as we got weaker. We needed to reverse that trend, so we called for a ceasefire. Had the president declared victory at that time, he might have been able to find a politically acceptable way to extract himself, but he didn't. And that's where we're at right now. He needs to do something that allows him to terminate this war on terms that are politically acceptable to him. But again, remember, we're talking about terms that are politically acceptable to a clinically insane man, which means it's not acceptable to the United States, not to the benefit of the United States. This is a sickness. This is all about appeasing Donald Trump's ego. And if you're not assessing this from that standpoint, you're way off base. If you're out there playing geopolitical games right here, saying, well, we have to look at this, you don't have to look at anything other than Donald Trump's ego and the narcissism that he's wrapped himself in. That's where we're at right now. And that means that we're in a very, very dangerous, unpredictable, unstable area because, again, Ray McGovern, the former CIA. When it comes to, parsing all things Russian and extracting the right meaning from it, Ray's number one. Ray knows the Russian language, not just how to speak it, to communicate. I can barely get along doing that. But Ray understands the meaning of words and how the Russians use words. And so Ray has taken a look at the phone conversation between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump that I believe took place yesterday. A phone conversation which was initiated by the Russians, which means everything. If people don't understand that, that means that the Russians have decided that it's necessary for their leader to intervene in a situation that's quickly devolving. And the Russians have said that an American attack on Iran, a resumption of military operations, and again, I'm not the specialist, but the wording is that it is not just unacceptable, but it's unacceptable in a manner which means that the consequences for this attack will be devastating to the United States and the world. Aragchi, the foreign minister, just got back from Moscow, where he briefed the Russians on the harsh reality. If the United States attacks Iran, Iran is front-loading the physical destruction of the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, and perhaps Qatar. That means that 20% of the world's energy production will be permanently, not temporarily, permanently removed from the table. Sabby, we're on the verge of an economic catastrophe. It's going to happen. It can't be stopped. Energy that was in the pipeline at the time we started this attack on February 28th has worked its way through the system. Understand that, energy security is something that people don't understand the thin margins that we operate on when it comes to energy security. It's not like we're sitting there with big gas tanks full of gas that we could just rely upon. The way the energy business works is, we are constantly upping production, lowering production based upon anticipated needs. What you don't want is a whole bunch of excess oil on the market. We saw what happened during the pandemic, where the United States actually had to pay people to store oil. It cost you money oil didn't earn you money. Oil lost you money. That's how bad it got. And the other thing you can't have is need when there's no, demand when there's no supply. That creates a problem too. We're moving into the peak summer period. This is going to be a summer of disaster for airlines. International airlines are already shutting down. Lufthansa has canceled 20,000 flights, and they may have to shut down everything. Other European airlines have stopped training new flight attendants because they're saying, we're going to be firing the ones we have. We can't train new ones. Airline industry is going to shut down because there's no aviation fuel. None. Zero. It's gone. And it's not like, well, let's just pay a little bit more. We're already paying a premium. I bought a ticket to go someplace, and I paid a price, then I had to pay an additional price, the fuel levy that had to be put on because of the rise in the cost of fuel. Okay, it's one thing to pay more, but no amount of money gives you something that doesn't exist. And jet fuel is ceasing to exist. In the United States, we're going to run into huge problems too in terms of costs. People think they're flying somewhere this summer. No, you're not unless you're a millionaire. There's no money. We just got rid of Spirit Airlines, so there's no discount airlines out there anymore. This is the reality. The fuel that entered, or the oil that entered the pipeline on February 28th, is all gone. No oil has entered the pipeline since then. Kuwait, one of the largest oil producers in the world, you know how much oil they shipped in the month of April? Zero. One of the largest suppliers of oil in the world shipped zero oil. Saudi Arabia's had to divert to Yanbu, but they're not, for a while they were going to zero. Now they've gotten up, they're getting a certain percentage out there, but it's not the percentage that exists. United Arab Emirates can't ship anything except a little bit out of the one port that's open. Bahrain shipping nothing. Iraq's having a hard time getting oil to market. You know who's not paying a price? Iran. You know all that crap out there about, Iran, they don't have any place to store their oil and they're going to run out and it's a disaster. We're so smart with our blockade because we are. The people who write that know nothing about Iran. First of all, the Iranians have lived in the age of sanctions for 47 years. All right, so they know how to work their oil production. This isn't the first time they've had to ratchet it down, and they know about oil maintenance wells, et cetera. But the other thing is we totally miscalculate on two things. One is storage. You have people saying, they're going to run out of storage in, 6 weeks. And then they have to come back and go, well, we think it's 12 to 22. Now, if you have a margin there of 12 to 22, it means you don't know what you're talking about. That's a big margin, 12 to 22 weeks. I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a global economic crisis in about 4 to 6 weeks. So no matter what, Iran already is in the driver's seat because while they're still able to store oil that they're producing, according to even these pro-Israeli think tanks, we are looking at global economic collapse because of the lack of oil. The other thing is the vast majority of Iran's oil production is consumed domestically. And so it's not like they have to ship their oil. They just consume it domestically. Third, you know what the biggest oil market in the world is today, right now? One of the biggest. Between Iran and Pakistan over the border. The Pakistanis are throwing trucks into Iran, grabbing oil and bringing it back, and they're paying through the eye for this. But that's how Pakistan has to survive here. Iran is shipping a whole bunch of oil, a ton of oil. I mean, there is no problem here. Iran is raising money. All this stuff about Iran doesn't have any money, no cash reserves. Iran's raking in money as we speak. So all the calculations that Trump's making about Iran breaking is just lies, straight up lies. It's not even close to being factually correct. We have no functioning blockade right now, no functioning blockade. We get 1 or 2 ships here and there. We have 16 ships. I've taken a cruise in that area of the world. I'm here to tell you right now, that's a lot of water, And 16 ships, 16 ships couldn't even handle a fraction of the space that needs to be policed, let alone get close to the shore where these other tankers are leaking through. So this insane man is being badly briefed by stupid people who are promoting themselves to the cult of personality as opposed to giving sound advice to the president. Getting back to blow the hell out of them. We don't have anything to blow the hell out of them with. Look at one of the big headlines out there, put out again by these mouth-breathing MAGA morons. Dark Eagle. You heard Dark Eagle, right? I mean, that's our new super weapon. That's a hypersonic weapon. We got hypersonics now because these are stupid people who think that we have to have hypersonics to match the Iranian hypersonics. Dark Eagle is being deployed for the first time, and the Iranians quiver in fear. Dark Eagle, we got one battery, 8 missiles, $41 million each, by the way. We don't know if they work. We don't know if they work. And if they do work, we don't know how lethal they are. In fact, they're not probably very lethal. And yet the mouth-breathing morons, the MAGA morons, are saying this is going to go in and it's going to eradicate Iran's ballistic missile problem. Well, they got thousands of missiles and thousands of launchers. How are 8 hypersonics with questionable lethality going to eradicate anything? This is the stupidity that exists here in the United States. We are going to accomplish nothing except what the Iranians told the Russians. If America attacks us, we wipe it all out. We wipe the slate clean. There's nothing there. And nobody wants that because it will lead to a global economic shutdown, a crisis from which there is no recovery, none. Because it's not a matter of letting them rebuild. We're talking about systems grinding to a halt. We live in a world that can't exist without oil. We live in a world that cannot exist without oil. Everything we do is, there will be mass starvation because there's no fertilizers. The urea that's produced from the ammonia that's produced from the byproduct of petroleum distillates, it's not available. So the farmers, look outside in DC. I just came from DC. It's very green, very beautiful. That means it's planting time. But how do you plant without fertilizer? Can't. And so we're talking, and again, this is non-recoverable, meaning that if we don't get the crops in the ground, there is no food. Non-recoverable. We are talking famine that is going to happen. It cannot be avoided. We're talking industry shutting down permanently in the United States and elsewhere. Aviation industries. Airlines don't just simply hit the pause button. They go out of business. And that's it. And you start talking about no airplanes flying, that's the end of global commerce, the end of global connectivity. So we have an insane man making insane statements designed to appease himself. There is not a single analyst worthy of being called an analyst who accepts at face value anything Donald Trump says. Nothing he says is true. Everything he says is a lie. And yet, here we are talking about it.
It's very frustrating to me because a lot of people just don't understand how serious this is. Right now, it was just reported, I'm just looking at this from Dropsite News. It says that there are planes expecting to head to the Middle East right now from the United States. I think we all know what they're going there for. People are saying that Iran's airspace has been cleared. And to me, it's just, you mentioned the fertilizer. Professor Richard Wolff had talked about that a month or two ago. We are very much dependent on oil as a society. And they are also reporting right now that there are dolphins. They're saying Iran has dolphins with bombs on them. It's absolutely ridiculous. So of course Iran is denying that. They're saying, no, we're not blowing up dolphins. We're not putting bombs on dolphins to attack people. My big question here, Scott, is how long is this supposed to go on? Like you talked about, of course, the global crisis, big concern for everybody in the world. But Donald Trump really has stuck his foot in his mouth here.
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the scary thing. all of the analysis that's been done about the impending collapse of the Iranian oil industry, which doesn't apply to Iran. I just told you. And I just had been talking to some people in Iran who are experts in these things. And I said, is there any truth to this? I mean, is there, and these guys are always honest with me. If I raise a question, they'll say, yeah, we can't dig too deep into this, Scott, but you're in the right direction. You're not off. They came back and they said, no, not even close. Just the opposite. We're doing okay. No panic here. The people that are panicking are the guys across the Persian Gulf, all of the Arab nations. They're panicking because they're the ones that have never had to deal with this before. I mean, the last time Kuwait ran into a 0-month production was right after the Gulf War when all of their oil fields were blown up. But they rapidly brought it back. But Kuwait's not equipped to deal with this oil production. Where are they going to put their excess storage? There's no place for them to send money. So they are going to have to shut down oil fields. They're going to have to do it precipitously, which means they could cause permanent damage because they do use, injection methodology, water injection to keep the pressure up. And if you don't maintain the field properly, this water then works its way up and pollutes a significant section of the well, maybe the total well. And now you've corrupted the field and it's dead. And so all the hundreds of billions of barrels of oil that everybody's anticipating to exist for the coming decades, it's gone, not going to be produced. Moreover, I mean, if they want to play stupid games, one of the things Trump talked about is I'm going to send them in, I'm going to blow up the Iranian energy production facilities. Iran's like, okay, well, we'll just blow up desalination energy production. Imagine we're getting into the hot months right now. Imagine being Kuwait City and losing your desalination plant. There is no water. There's brackish water they used to inject into the oil wells. Can't drink that. There's no fresh water. It comes from desalination. So you blow up the desalination plants. Kuwait is a dead nation at that point in time. You cannot sustain life. You can't drink oil. You can't drink gasoline, kerosene. You can't drink any of this. You need fresh water, and that comes from desalination. They don't have a plan B. None. You blow up that and you blow up the Saudi desalination plants. Now you can't even ship water in from Saudi Arabia. Blow up the UAE one, and Abu Dhabi and Dubai become ghost cities. Bahrain, Desvidanya, it's gone. And then you talk about, so Iran can instantly terminate the viability of these Gulf Arab nations, instantly terminate. And the Iranians said, that's what we're going to do. Instantly terminate them as viable nation states. They're going to pick on the biggest sinners first. Kuwait, which provides basing for American forces. Bahrain, 5th Fleet headquarters. United Arab Emirates, bases there. Qatar, Al Udeid Air Base. These nations will cease to exist. And the Russians have put the United States on notice saying, this is what's going to happen if you attack. But the people advising Donald Trump are, again, you can't be mentally well if you're willing to lie to a narcissist knowing that the byproduct of the lie is disaster. Where are the people to advise this man that what you're doing is wrong? And if this insane man continues to move in the direction of, implementing insanity, then where are the people who are going to enact the 25th Amendment? Because that's where we're at right now. We're literally talking to a man who's incapable of governing. This man is insane. He woke up in the middle of the night and sent 11 of the dumbest tweets in the world on his social media posting. This man is unwell. He is sick. He is mentally ill, which makes him dangerous, not only in terms of the unpredictability, but you understand how easily this man can be manipulated. Yeah. Donald Trump made a phone call. Vladimir Putin made a phone call. Xi Jinping is getting ready to meet this insane man. You know what the Chinese just did to us? The checkmate they pulled in Panama. We put pressure on the Panamanian government, said you got to pull the Chinese influence out of these port facilities, and so Panama acted on that and evicted China. China's come out and said any shipping company that uses that port will never be allowed into China. And instantly, nobody's going to that port. It's a dead port right now. Dead port. Chinese played that card. And now they played another card because stupid Scott Bessent, another man whose mouth is causing us huge problems, has talked about imposing secondary sanctions on Chinese oil companies who buy Iranian oil. And the Chinese just came out and said, screw you, we're doing the opposite. Anybody who seeks to stop us or punish us for that, we will sanction them. We will shut down. Nobody will do business. And so the United States is on the cusp of finding out what it means to have a economic war with China. We're going to lose that war. We can't win that war. Scott Bessent is setting us up for disaster. We are already a superpower that's on the slow path towards not being a superpower, which to me is a good thing. I think we need to be better global, members of the community, equal in status. We can still be big and strong and lift weights and do all the stuff we want, but we can't be this out of control hegemon that we've been. But what Bessent is assuring is that we're going to rapidly bust through the equality standpoint and go down to being the poor cousin. We're talking about total economic collapse here in the United States. Total economic collapse. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm scared to death. My daughter just gave birth to a little baby girl, granddaughter. Yeah, I'm a grandfather.
Congrats.
Yeah, but what kind of world is she being brought into? I mean, it's scary. This, you're supposed to be creating stability. We have an insane man who's literally heading us down the path of destruction, and we have a nation of stupid people. Literally, the American people are stupid. I know that your audience is smarter than the average audience, and but let's just be honest about the bulk of Americans. They're dumber than dirt. They don't know anything about the world we live in. They know nothing about the world we live in. They know nothing about the complexity of what we talked about. They play Call of Duty, Medal of Honor. They play, I don't know, Roblox or Minecraft or Fortnite. I don't know what games they're playing out there, but that's their focus. They live in a world of digital artificialities. And we have an industry today that is geared more towards making money than it is producing anything, which means that we are slicing and dicing and parsing, things that have economic value, but they only have economic value if they're attached to something that produces something, sells something, generates income. But we're slicing them up into pieces that have artificial value that the millionaires have given value to, and then they're quickly selling them and scamming your 401k, scamming the average American so that the elite make money, and they're just raking in the money. But this cannot continue indefinitely. And at some point in time, the fact that the United States produces nothing of value, that our banking industry is fake, that our entire Wall Street, capitalism is a lie, a straight up lie. That's all going to come, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later with this economic collapse, because hedges are going to be called in. They're not going to be able to delay it. Reality will stare you in the face right now, and we're looking at absolute disaster. The only good news is all the 1% that have been stealing us blind will be jumping out of their towers committing suicide because their life is over. So I'll celebrate that. I apologize for that to anybody I insult, but I don't care. These are people who are ruining this country right now. These are bad people. These aren't good people. These aren't, the Rockefellers of the past that built railroads and built things. Yes, you were a robber baron. Yes, you accumulated wealth, but at least you reinvested in the country and you built things, built monuments to industry, you built factories. The people of today are building nothing. I mean, Elon Musk is about the only one who's building anything right now. SpaceX, and you can say what you want about it. I'm not a big fan of Elon Musk or his business model, but at least he's building something. These other people who work Wall Street, they build nothing. They just rob us blind, and their time will come. And so maybe that's what we need, but I don't want that. Like I said, I got a granddaughter. She needs economic stability. She needs the ability of her parents to hold a job that generates income on a reliable, sustainable basis. And the world that she lives in right now, if I were betting on one of those stupid, online betting sites where you bet on predictions, my bet is that that her parents are not going to have jobs in a year because we are moving in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I've been warning people about this. Like, at the end of the day, a lot of this comes back to the elites, the people that are the top 0.01%, those people that are in power. And speaking of that, is something else.
Questions for actions are, first of all, if the Pentagon's saying 40 to 50 million, a billion, I'm telling you the real number is over 100 billion. I'm just telling you right now, I know the real number is over 100 billion. And then when you add in the corruption and inefficiencies, even if we were to seek to rebuild these places, we're looking at about a $200 billion price tag, because we can't build anything on time or under cost. The United States is incapable of doing that. The system simply won't allow it to happen. So that's a fake number that Ben Norton's putting out there. It's a pretty big number, but it's a fake number. You're really looking at around $200 billion if we were to rebuild everything that has been lost, and we're not going to. Again, I just want to point out to the people out there, Iran won this war. I will tell you the other thing. One of the, Desert Storm, we ran a big strategic air campaign, and we blew that crap out of Iraq. I mean, we're bombing everything, and we're so proud of ourselves. We did such a good job. Our targeting was awesome. But then I went as a weapons inspector, and I found out that we just blew up a bunch of empty buildings, that we actually didn't accomplish what we thought we had accomplished because the Iraqis had evacuated. And then, and this is interesting, there was a guy named General Al-Udeid, I think. He ended up being the oil minister, but he was one of the big dogs in their defense industry, the Iraqi defense industry. And he had commissioned a report to find out, how effective the American bombing campaign was. By the time I left, that report had been finished. And I saw the physical report, and he let me leaf through it and look at it. It's an indictment of how America wages war, because we didn't accomplish anything with our air campaign, nothing. And I'm here to tell you right now, one day the Iranians will produce. Oh, the other thing is that report is in the hands of the United States intelligence community. It's been highly classified and will not be allowed to be released, because it shows that we didn't do it. One of the things it'll show, one of the big secrets from the Gulf War is the effectiveness of the Tomahawk missile. What percentage of Tomahawks launched actually hit their target? It's a classified number. But we have some hints. We know that we launched 59 Tomahawks against Syria in 2017. These are the upgraded Block 4 Tomahawks. And we know that 23 of them didn't reach their target. And of the ones that did reach their target, many of them were shot down, et cetera. So Tomahawks don't work. Nothing works. We dropped these GBU-57s, the big bombs, the ones that blew everything up. I mean, that Trump's so proud of. 4 of them didn't go off, and the Iranians have recovered them intact and are taking them apart right now. They have all of our weapons. Every weapon we use has an extremely high dud rate, and the Iranians recovered everything. And, those Chinese planes that are flying in equipment, guess what they're flying out? Yes, our top secret weaponry. Guess what the Russians have? Our top secret weaponry. We suck. We literally suck. We're very bad at what we do. We're very good at lying, very good at hyping ourselves up. But Pete Hegseth is one of the biggest liars in the world. I wish Congress had more power. I have to tell you that if I were a senator and Pete Hegseth talked to me the way he talked to them, I would have jumped the seat, gone down there, and headbutted him into submission on the spot. And I would have gladly have suffered the consequence. But that moron is responsible for getting our nation in a huge predicament. He's not a smart man. He's a liar, straight up liar. And then he plays the arrogance game. He forgets that he's a servant of the people, a servant of we, the people of the United States, and that the Congress, no matter what we think about Congress, and I don't have a high opinion of them, but constitutionally, they play a role, a very important role, a role of accountability. And so when Pete Hegseth disgraces himself by putting down Congress, he's putting down me, he's putting down you, he's putting down everybody there. It shows that he doesn't care about how this constitutional republic works. So he deserves to be headbutted into submission. And I would do that. That would be a promise. Vote for me for senator, and I promise I will headbutt Pete Hegseth into submission. That is a guarantee. And I will do it, and I will beat him. He may be able to bench press 315 pounds, but he's never had the fury of an enraged Marine in his face. And the man has done more harm to this country because he's the guy that's putting thoughts into President Trump's brain. that we can bomb them into submission. We can blow them up in a day. Pete, you had 40 days and you couldn't do it. 40 days, and the Iranians blew up all of your bases in the Middle East. All of your bases were destroyed, Pete. All of them. The Navy's underground. Really, then what the hell's shutting down the Strait of Hormuz right now? The non-existent Iranian Navy? No, it exists. Pete, tell me about the Iranian F-5. You know, my dad in 1966 deployed to Vietnam to train the Vietnamese Air Force in the use of the F-5 fighter. F-5. The Iranians bought some. Yes, back in the 70s. You know, that's like 50 years ago. Why did an F-5 penetrate Kuwaiti airspace and bomb American facilities? How many Americans are talking about the fact that a 50-year-old fighter penetrated the best air defenses in the world? I thought we destroyed their Air Force. Why are MiG-29s flying over Iran today? Why are Su-30s flying over Iran today? Why are F-4s, the old F-4s, flying over Iran? Why are F-14s in the air? Why are F-5? Because we didn't destroy anything. It was all underground. It was all hidden. It all wrote it out. And ask, again, all our we destroyed their air defense. Really, Donald? Then why did we lose an F-15E? Why did we lose an A-10? Why did we lose an F-18? Because when we ran out of standoff precision-guided munitions, you had to put the Air Force over the territory. And the Iranians weren't playing the radar game. They were playing the electro-optical target acquisition game, the heat-seeking game, the IR game. And they were shooting down our airplanes because they control their airspace. We don't. This is the reality that nobody's telling you about. One day the Iranians, and who knows, maybe I'll go in and ask to help them get it publicized. They'll publish the truth about this American disaster of a campaign that we all need to know about, because everything that we do, I mean, you hear it, if Russia ever really got to go up against NATO, they'd be in trouble. I mean, you hear all the mouth breathers, because the NATO air power, unmatched in the world, and it's backed up by American air power. The Iranians just beat us. You think the Chinese are sweating bricks now over American air power? Nope. The Chinese got more missiles than the Iranians do, and they're better missiles. You think the North Koreans are nervous? No. Nobody's nervous anymore, and that's what Pete Hegseth did. He guaranteed that the world recognizes that outside of nuclear weapons, the United States has no meaningful military power. We should have known that when we couldn't defeat the Houthi. Remember them? The people who shut down the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the ones who made one of our aircraft carriers maneuver emergency so it threw an F-18 overboard in panic. Them. We can't defeat them, didn't defeat them. And we want to go and defeat Iran, which is like orders of magnitude better. And then we want to take on the Russians, which are, and the Chinese. We are literally, we're like the Boy Scouts thinking we can play in the NFL. We can't.
So, Scott, you're saying that when Donald Trump makes these statements, when he's saying, oh, we're going to blow the hell out of them or whatever, that we don't even have the weapon capability to do that. Is that what you're also saying?
We have weapons that go boom. But, that's not how you, I mean, it has to go boom in the right place. We don't know where the Iranian stuff is. If we did, we would have bombed it. We spent 40 days bombing Iran. And at the end of the day, remember how we were said, we've shut down Iranian ballistic missile production. Well, since this ceasefire has been in place, Iran has totally replaced their high-end missiles by building new missiles. Why? Because they took the production capacity that was above ground and put it below ground, and we don't know where it is. And if we do know where it is, we don't know how to get to it. So they're producing new missiles, new launchers. And they have missiles we haven't touched. They have drones we haven't touched. We don't know where they are. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know how they're doing it. Maybe in this pause, we refine some intelligence collection capability to come up with. If you think for a second that the Iranians are playing the static game, we did a good job. Everybody stand down, stay in the same place you are. Don't move so the Americans can take photographs and find out where you are so they can blow you up. You think they're playing that game? These are people who spent the last 20 years looking at how America fights a war. I can guarantee you they have shuffled the deck and reshuffled the deck and reshuffled the deck, and they are 5 steps ahead of us. We didn't destroy anything. We killed some people, but we didn't impact their. We sank some ships, but it's not the victory the president wants to make it out to be. The Iranians never had a blue water navy capable of challenging the United States. The Strait of Hormuz was not, secured by the 159 ships that Donald Trump claims we put underground. It was secured by missiles, and we can't control those missiles. And fast boats, which we didn't destroy at all. They have hundreds of fast boats that can swarm. We didn't dent Iran's military capability at all. Nothing. During the Gulf War, we ended up killing decoys or things that we confused as Scud missiles. We never destroyed a single Scud launcher during the Gulf War, and I know because I was one of the guys responsible for hunting them down. We claimed, I remember after the first week and a half, we claimed to destroyed 64 launchers. The Iranians only had 19. Now that tells you we got a problem. If we think we killed 64 launchers when they only have 19 and all 19 continue to function, it means we're killing something that we think is a launcher that's not a launcher. It now turns out that the Iranians have very sophisticated decoys, inflatable decoys that they can put heat sensors on it so it glows at the right point. So when you look at it with infrared, you go, oh my God, look, it's a missile. And the Israelis and the United States were blowing up a bunch of inflatable decoys, static decoys. Meanwhile, Iran just continued to fire missiles on a daily basis. They're good missiles. We didn't destroy anything. This is the truth the American people need to understand. We didn't destroy anything. Nothing. Zero. Squat. And the Iranians destroyed everything.
Yeah, I think that's what people need to understand. I'm already seeing reports about what's happening in Michigan. Michigan diesel hits record $6 per gallon. I bought gas a couple of days ago. I had to pay $45.
Yeah,
like it's crazy, and depending on how far
I paid 56 filling up my tank. I was in Washington D.C. That's where my daughter lives. That's so I literally drove up from D.C. yesterday, and when I drove down to D.C., the price was at $4.09 a gallon. Driving up, it was at $4.65 a gallon.
Yeah, it's going up rapidly, and I want to get your take on this.
AMOD, something of that nature. It's an Israeli organization. It works for the Israeli Foreign Ministry. It's funded by the Israeli Foreign Ministry. That man is a foreign agent working for the Israeli government. And now he's on the negotiating team. But this is Washington, D.C. It's how the whole thing works. But FDD started with an Israeli name because it's an Israeli entity. It works for the Israeli foreign minister, and then that became too difficult to sell, so they renamed it, rebranded it. It's the same people, same thing. Scott Besson out there throwing all those stupid numbers about Iranian oil production and all this stuff, that's FDD analysis being done. And Stewart contributes to that. This is an Israeli propagandist who's now being attached to the negotiating team. For what purpose? You have to ask yourself. Just so you understand, this man works for the state of Israel. He is a foreign agent, unregistered, of course, but the FBI won't be knocking on his door.
This is insane. This is crazy. Now there are reports that J.D. Vance is now saying that he's against this war, was against the Iran war. There seems to be some type of split that's happening between him and Pete Hegseth, whereas Pete Hegseth is doubling down, and J.D. Vance is basically saying now that apparently he was against this war. What do you think is happening there? And is Pete Hegseth on his way out, you think?
Well, Hegseth is doomed because Trump has no loyalty. People need to understand that too. Pete Hegseth, I despise the man. Look, I'm just going to be straight up. He has committed war crimes. He is a war criminal. He has violated the War Crimes Act. People need to look at it. 1996 law passed by the United States Congress. When you flagrantly violate the Geneva Conventions, read the War Powers Act. It's a death penalty sentence. It is a crime that carries the death penalty. So Pete Hegseth should be arrested, charged, tried, and if found guilty, shot. We just brought up the firing squad. I'd be on that firing squad. I'd pull the trigger gladly to kill this son of a bitch because he is one of the most evil men that walks the face of the earth. But I will say this about Pete. damn if he's not loyal to this president. I mean, he's sitting there carrying the president's water. He's telling the president whatever the president wants to hear. He's out there doing everything for this president. This president will sell him down like you've never seen anybody sold down before, because this president is only about the president. That's the problem with a malignant narcissist. He's only about himself. There's no loyalty here. He's not loyal to Pete. He's not loyal to Melania. We know that. He's not loyal to the United States. He's only loyal to himself to a certain extent. So Hegseth is dead because we have lost this war. His head will roll. Whether or not he'll be pardoned is another thing, because the other thing about Trump is he's an inherently vindictive person. And if the political price he pays for Pete Hegseth's loyalty is too high, then he will, make sure that Pete Hegseth is, look what he did to Rudy Giuliani. Look what he did to anybody who carried his water. He left them hanging. And I think he'll leave Pete hanging. I don't feel sorry for Pete. He deserves everything that happens to him. But no, Pete's heads will roll. Vance is a political animal. And Vance understands that he is now he's basically bought a ticket on the Titanic after it struck an iceberg. And it's going down. Now, what he's hoping is to get on a lifeboat, make it to one of the ships that are coming in to rescue, and have some viability down the road. That's what he's hoping for. And so he's positioned. He can't buy into this war because he knows the truth. J.D. Vance knows what the truth is, and he's smart enough to understand what the truth means and what the consequences of failing to adhere to the truth will be for him and for the nation. The question now is, what is he going to do about it? Let's again, in defense of J.D. Vance, it's very hard to defend him, but Savvy, I know I don't know your politics. Your politics are your politics, and that's fine. But I have a feeling that you're not in the MAGA pro Donald Trump camp. Just a feeling. I feel that you're not there. But even you, who may not be aligned with Donald Trump, can you honestly look at me right now and say that on February 28th, you knew that Donald Trump was going to be this insane, that he was capable of putting out the tweets that he put out? We know he puts out stupid stuff, but can we honestly say, oh yeah, I predicted that Donald Trump would put out a tweet of him as Jesus Christ on Easter Sunday?
No, I think it's worse than I thought that it would be. I thought he would be bad, but this is crazy.
Nobody thought it would be this bad. And I think J.D. Vance thought this was a controllable problem, that if I just be the good soldier and I stay loyal on there, that I can help shape and influence. And what he found out is, again, you can't shape and influence an insane man. Donald Trump is insane, literally clinically insane. The man is incapable of rational thought. And I think J.D. Vance has finally recognized this. And so I think you're going to see J.D. Vance disassociate himself from this war and try to do the right thing to bring this war to an end. And to do that, he's going to have the courage to put the president in a politically untenable situation. Because the bottom line is, if J.D. Vance when was the last time a vice president resigned because they disagreed with the policies of a president? Never. They resign because they're corrupt. They resign because they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. J.D. Vance may walk, and that'll be the end of Donald Trump. That'll be the end of everything. J.D. Vance is the MAGA mouthpiece. He wrote that book. I forget the name of the book. Hillbilly Elegy or something.
Yeah, Hillbilly Elegy.
Yeah, in which basically empowered the population, the Appalachian population of white disenfranchised Americans, to say, let's do this Donald Trump thing. And so, I hope he's doing the right thing. But, remember, he's a politician. If he thought there was a way to ride this thing out politically, he would. That's why he was silent up front, because J.D. Vance knew this was a losing proposition. We have the New York Times reporting where he has told them, I was against the war up front, that he articulated an opposition to this conflict. But in the end, he stood back and let the president take us down this path. Now I think he's finished, and hopefully he's joined by others. We keep getting inklings of, for instance, General Kane the chairman of Joint Chiefs, telling the president not once but twice, you don't get to play with nuclear weapons in this one. Again, think about what I just said. Donald Trump, because he started a war of choice where there is no existential threat to the United States of America, got himself into a political, it boxed himself to a political corner. And to get himself out of it, he was considering the use of nuclear weapons. That's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we're at. And I just want to put this in perspective. Russia has said that they will never be the first ones to use nuclear weapons. But I've also been told by Russians who are very close to the center of power that if the United States uses weapons, Russia cannot allow a situation where the United States believes that because they've used weapons, they can intimidate Russia now and say, we've used nukes. The Russians will use nuclear weapons in return, not against the United States, but there are a lot of problem sets out there, Poland and other one, England, where Russia will drop a nuke and say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You don't get to play the nuclear intimidation game. You used a nuke, we use a nuke. We didn't use it against you, but you use it against our ally. Remember that. Iran is a strategic ally of Russia, and Donald Trump's talking about nuking them. What do you think the Russians are going to do? I don't know what the Russians are going to do. I'm just being told by people who are in on the conversations that the likely outcome is that Russia would use nuclear weapons against Europe. And Europe's doing everything to deserve to be nuked. They're building long-range cruise missiles on behalf of Ukraine, giving them the target information and, eviscerating Russian strategic oil production. So is Russia supposed to sit there and go, that's okay, hit us again? So this is, we're reaching levels of insanity that, as you said, we could never have predicted it being this bad, because at the end of the day, you and I both, we're saying, well, but there's got to be a modicum of rationality there. We understand he's a horrible human being. We understand he's deeply flawed. We understand he, has bad policy inclinations. But nobody thought that he was clinically insane. Not demonstrably so. But today, there's no doubt about it. And I know there's a bunch of people out there that are pro-Trump saying, Scott, you have Trump derangement syndrome. I voted for that son of a bitch. So don't tell me about Trump derangement syndrome. I voted for him. I didn't want to vote for him. I believe I wasn't given any options. I voted because he's the only candidate who articulated against nuclear war with Russia. The only one. The other one, Harris, had a president, Biden, who said he's ready to have a nuclear war with Russia. I'm like, well, I'm not voting for that. And then, what was it, Jill Stein? She didn't have the courage to come out and say anything. So I'm like, okay, the one guy who actually took what I wrote and turned it into an article and published it on The Hill about opposing nuclear war with Russia, I went, okay, I'll vote for that. I'll hold my nose on everything else.
Well, to be fair, Jill did come out and say that, yes, Russia invaded Ukraine, but she said that Russia was also provoked. She did come out and speak against those things. She just wasn't given a larger microphone.
You can't. I agree. I gave her a chance, so I offered her to come on my show. Not my show is the greatest show in the world, but she didn't have the courage to do so. I'll call her out. If Jill disagrees with me, she can come here and defend herself. But she didn't have the courage. She said she would come on, but when I told her what we were going to talk about, she decided she didn't want to come on, and she didn't want to talk about nuclear war and nuclear policy. So shame on Jill. You have to earn my vote. You don't get my vote. You have to earn it. And Donald Trump published an article, his son and RFK Jr., with Donald Trump's permission, published an article in The Hill magazine in September of 2024 that openly said we are opposed to nuclear war with Russia and we are in favor of good relations with Russia. I went, okay, that's good enough for me at this point in time. But having said that, look where we are today. This man is insane. The Russians, I'm having conversations with senior Russians. They don't know what to do with this guy.
I will say I tried to tell people in 2024, but again, there's a lot of propaganda, especially when it comes to voting in this country. There was only one anti-war candidate on the ballot that was on the ballot in over 45 states, and that was Jill Stein.
Well, what percentage of the votes you get?
Not a strong percentage.
Not at all. Which again, you're right. Look, now we're getting into Republicans, Democrats, and the control of the corruption of the political system. And I'm not here to defend political parties. I hate them both. I despise both. The Democrats, the Republicans, they've taken this country straight down. I mean, we talk about corruption. Donald Trump's the single most corrupt president we've ever had, but all presidents have been corrupt. All senators are corrupt. All representatives are corrupt. Every single one of them. Hakeem Jeffries, corrupt, straight up corrupt. They're all corrupt. And so it's hard now because people get mad at me when I say we have to vote, because I'm openly saying right now, Trump has to be disenfranchised. In November, the House must go full Democrat and the Senate must go full Democrat so we can impeach and convict this man and remove him. But then what I'm really saying is we're going to replace corrupt Republicans with corrupt Democrats because the Democrats are corrupt, straight up corrupt. And so is that really a solution? I think it buys us time so we get rid of an insane man. And maybe the best bet we have in America is to have a sane, corrupt person continuing to rob us blind because the same policies. I mean, Trump's policies more or less are similar in many ways to the policies of the Democrats. He just articulates them different and all that. But the result is the same. This path we've been headed on of hyper, you think Trump invented the deficit? He didn't invent it. He perfected it, but he didn't invent it. Anyways, we're getting down a different path. I think this country, this country's in a very bad place. But it's going to be even a worse place because of this war that Donald Trump has done with Iran. It's hopeless. We're not going to win this thing. We're not. We can't. The question now is, to what degree do we lose? And that's what the American people have to understand. We are not going to win. The world is not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. There will be an energy crisis which we may not recover from. I don't think you said what in Texas it's $6 for diesel.
I think that's what that one just said. No, Michigan. Sorry, Michigan.
What happens when it goes to? I forget. There's I think $7 and some odd cents is the point where truckers stop driving because they can't afford to. You at that point in time, you're spending more money fueling your truck than you are earning income from shipping things. So what happens when all the goods are piling up into ports and they don't get to market? Empty shelves. Now, I don't know where I live in Del Mar, New York. If I want to go shopping, I have to get in a car because I'm in a suburb. There are no shops around me. I have to drive. The society was built for me to drive to a store. And the store isn't where it's not a farmer's market where the farmers bring their stuff. It's a store where trucks bring things in and offload goods. When the trucks stop offloading goods, it doesn't matter if I can even get the gas to go to the store will have nothing. I'm talking about food stores. I'm talking about America, this is your future right now. This is your future. And if you think you can tell me how you're going to fix this, please do. Please tell me that you know something about how to get goods to market that nobody else knows. That you know how to get stuff that are piling up in Long Beach, California, coming in from China, how you can get that to Detroit or get that to Wichita or get it, anyway, you don't know anything. You don't know how you're going to do that because it can't be done. It can't be done. What do you think? What do you think powers locomotives? Diesel.
Yeah, diesel. Everything comes back to that. Well, Scott, thank you. Thank you so much for making the time and coming on. And I sincerely hope that things do turn around. But I think people need to hear like those hard truths from you, because I think people just are not ready for what is coming.
I'm not ready for what's coming. I don't think anybody is. Even though I'm saying it, the reality of it, how can you be prepared for it? I still live in a cocoon of comfort. We still have the ability to, enough money that I can buy the gas because there's gas in the gas station. But again, I just remind people, what happens when there is no gas in the